Hi, I'm Hayley Victoria and welcome back to my crime and policing channel. In today's session we are looking at crime scene investigation, and I'm smiling because this is my favourite subject, and the fact that one of you guys has asked me for it made me really happy, and I couldn't wait to get stuck in. So this is one of my areas that I really like to get involved in, and that's because it's what I've got some qualifications in, it's what I teach, and yeah, it just makes me happy. So thanks for the request. You might be thinking, what have you got in your hand? And this is our victim, and we're going to go through some stuff with him later. Sounds hippo. Okay, so first and foremost, what is a crime scene? Now, a crime scene is not specifically only a geographical location. A crime scene is anywhere, any place, anything, anywhere where you might be able to get some evidence to support your investigation. Now, if we look at my little hippo friend here, so this is not mine, so this hippo is dead. R.I.P. hippo, and that's his house. This little bear did it. So the house is a crime scene, so where it took place. The person is a crime scene because you might be able to get some evidence from your victim. The suspect is a crime scene because the suspects might have evidence on them too. We're going to bring in a lot of stuff about cross-transference of material, etc. But obviously if they've killed him, then he's got blood, all sorts, fibres and hairs all over him. Wherever he goes next, it's also a crime scene. So the path he's taking, he's going down a little garden path, crime scene. Gets in his car, crime scene. So anywhere where you might be able to get any evidence is a crime scene. And that's why it's super important that you've got to act really quickly in terms of preservation and stuff at scenes. There's something called the golden hour. Now, the golden hour principles basically mean that quick period of time after a crime has taken place where you can gather the best evidence. And it's things like, forensic opportunities, witnesses, CCTV, all these different aspects that can help build up a profile of what's happened in order for you to be able to complete the investigation in a prompt and effective manner and to get some justice for these victims. So the golden hour is really that golden nugget of time after an event where you can gather the best evidence and hopefully, preserve enough of it so you can get a solid conviction. Now, when it comes to things like evidence, it can deteriorate over time, and that can be stuff like forensic opportunities. So if it's raining outside and you're looking at, say, blood spatter analysis or footprints in mud, fingerprints, and it's inclement weather, you might lose that. If it's things such as memory, so if you're looking at people's witness statements and things like that, over time your memory does deteriorate and you can start filling in the blanks. That's just something that you do naturally. Now, what you want to do is get those witness statements as soon as possible while it's fresh in people's minds. And this all forms part of that golden hour. But anyway, back to our scene. So we've got this little dead hippo. I'm so sorry, mate. It's just the first little house I could find in my house. And it happened to be Mr. Hippo. So you have a call that there's been a disturbance at a domestic property. And you get called up for it, you're like, okay. So there was a lot of shouting and screaming, and it all went quiet. Okay, you get there, you're like, hello, please. The door's open. Oh no, it's not good, is it? It looks like it's being kicked off. Crime scene. So instantly you think, right, okay, there's some evidence here. That door's being booted in. You can see the locks being broken or whatever. Defo a shoe print on that door. Do not touch the shoe print. Okay, as with all scenes, you must protect yourself from depositing any of your bits there and collecting any of that on you. But at the moment, we don't know what kind of scene we're going to. We just know there's been domestic disturbance, the door's being kicked in, the shoe print, I'm not going to touch that because that might be forensic opportunities for later. I'm not going to touch it. What you are going to do is open it tentatively a bit more so you can get in without destroying any of that evidence. So it might mean touching it with gloves on at a place where you wouldn't normally push a door. So you're looking at your uncommon areas to get in. So I'm nudging this door open. It opens straight into a room where you see your victim like this. Now you think that as a police officer, your main role obviously is to preserve life and protect property. You see Mr. Hippo there and you're like, those injuries do not look compatible with life. However, as it is your job to make sure that this person is not dead, or you like to think he's not, you want to go and check on him. But you don't want to walk straight to him. So say the door's here. If you go straight over there, you're going to be walking over any potential evidence. What you've got to do is take an uncommon approach path. So a common approach path is what we avoid, okay? A common approach path would be the most likely route you'd take in a room. So from the front door here to our victim, say he's at the back there, your common approach path would be straight to them to check for their pulse and stuff. However, what you're going to do is go an uncommon way in. You might walk around the edges to make sure, or go and check that this guy is or is not alive. Once you've discovered that they are, yes, indeed dead, what are you going to do? Well, you are first on scene. So what you're going to do is make a note of everything you've seen. Obviously, you're going to shout up for help. You're not just going to sit there with his body and go, right, okay, better make a cup of tea and tell everyone what I can see. What you need to do is call in immediately, obviously, some support. So they want to put a cordon up and get some the specialists in there now, some detectives and stuff. If you're responding, your response officer, you first at this scene, oh dear, you're not going to be required much after you've done your initial bits. So what you do then is you would call up for some assistance, and yeah, we've got a body here, looks like a murder, and then the big guns will come in. So what they'll do is they will send out a senior investigating officer who will be in charge of that. They will be the person who kind of pulls all the strings in this investigation, and they will work very, very closely with the SOCO team, the CSIs, and the other officers that they're going to need for their investigation. So if you are there, you just happen to be there at this scene still with Mr. Hippo, you're going to have to wait, not let anybody in until the SIO, what else have we got here? Oh, this is another bear, but this is not the murder bear. This other little bear, the SIO, comes along and goes, right, oh dear, you've obviously got to take your statement, anything you've noticed, anybody around, anybody there, anything happened since you've arrived, etc. Your clothes are going to be taken in as well for evidence if you've not got a hazmat suit on yet. So all that aside, that's obviously stuff you're going to get to later on. So now we know we've got a body, your approach to this scene will be very different. So if you are part of an investigative team, before you go into any scene, you have to have permission to be there. Obviously, if something pops up, like a murder or something like that, police officers, you are nosy by nature. That's why you're good at your job. You're professional, nosy people. You're going to want to go and have a look. Tough, no looking for you. And also, don't take any pictures. It's so disrespectful. So anyway, you're going to want to go have a look at the scene. Unless you are working on the scene, this guy's telling you you're working there, you do not go anywhere near it. Because you might take some evidence with you, or you might put your evidence in that. And you don't want to contaminate anything. They're not going to want 400 police officers stomping about in their Altbergs, ruining all their potential evidence. It's not going to happen. So what will happen after that is a cordon will be erected around the area. So it's always a good idea to go big with cordons because you can always bring it back a little bit. So you go big and then you bring it back as your investigative work has told you. You can pull it back in a little bit depending on what you're looking for. You'll obviously go and do some inquiries based on your golden hour principles. You've had a witness call in for this, so you want to hear what they've heard. Did they see anybody leaving, etc. But this is all kind of stuff that your senior investigating officer is going to be tasked with doing, or tasking other people with doing, part of his or her investigation team. There was a really good documentary where there's DCI Thika, I think she's called, and she's investigating this really high-profile case, the murder of Alice Ruggles. It's horrendous, and she does a fantastic job of facilitating this crime and dispatching all the different roles and stuff, making sure that nobody goes in there. But on entrance of a crime scene, if ever you were to go to one, you wouldn't take a common path. You go an uncommon approach path. You don't touch any evidence, especially not with your bare fingers, what you're doing. You don't move anything. Photographs are taken of everything in situ. Evidence is preserved and then collected. You don't ever put stuff in the same evidence bag. So if you were taken. So you got two shoes, a pair of shoes. You put each shoe in an individual bag. You wouldn't bundle them together. There's a lot of things that you would do when you're handling exhibits and stuff like that, and potential evidence. So we've got our scene. We know the DCI's there now. She's sorting that out. And you've done your statement, given them all your clothes that have got bits of whatever on, and you go and do your bit. If it's traumatic, you will, or for whatever reason, if you want to talk to Trim, they're awesome, which is the your trauma response people. They're really, really good. Okay, what else can I tell you about crime scenes? Okay, so crime scene investigation then. We've got our crime scenes. We know it's not just one person. We know that the house could be a crime scene. We know that our hippo is a crime scene. We know that the bear that did it is a crime scene. And we know that any weapons they had or anywhere they went after is also a crime scene. So if we are looking at evidence then in relation to these crime scenes, it could be a whole host of different stuff. There are obviously forensic opportunities there. So when it comes to things like trace evidence that you might have heard of before, so hair, fibres, you lose about 80 hairs a day, right? So mine are quite obvious to see because they're long and ginger, but you lose about 80 hairs a day. And no matter where you go or where you've been or where you go next, you're leaving like a little silent witness of where you've been. And this is something called Locard's exchange principle. So I've done a video all about Locard before, but as a little refresher, Edmund Locard is the Don of forensics. So this guy was instrumental in creating how we approach forensic science now. And that was like 1910. Now it's 2023. This guy's a legend. And he discovered, he had like a forensics bureau above the police station in France in 1910. And he saw dust particles and he was like, it's weird. They just land everywhere. Bingo. Wonder if I can identify these. And then he managed to solve a case of murder where this woman had got this, back in the olden days, you couldn't just get 3 for a tenner on Maybelline from Superdrug. You had to get your like face powder and stuff specifically made for your skin by pharmacists. So this lady had got some makeup from this pharmacy, and the guy who murdered her had a great alibi. Unfortunately, he also had this makeup under his fingernails, and Locard nailed him because of that. Yes, the beginning of it all. And how amazing is that? So so this trace evidence gets everywhere, and this is the stuff that you look out for when you are at scenes and what you're looking out to not disturb. So it might be that there is broken glass. Now, broken glass gets everywhere. Tiny fragments will end up in your hair, in your clothes. It really does get everywhere. So when you might be thinking, why am I taking the suspect's trousers? Because they might have some forensic opportunities on there. You will have, like I said, fibres and hairs. The transference of fibres and hairs is continual. There's something called your primary transfer, which is the first transfer, secondary, and then obviously your tertiary. So your first one would be, I've got this nice fleecy thing on now, and I am touching this thing. Say I'm on a bus seat or whatever, we're sat next to each other. Me and you cushion, how are you going? Now then, fibres from me are on this cushion, fibres from the cushion are now on me. That's primary transfer. So now this cushion gets off, bye cushion, and another cushion gets on the bus, if I can find one. Oh, how many more cushions? Got one here. This cushion gets on the bus and he sits next to me. Now this cushion has got transfers from this cushion on. That's a secondary transfer because it's gone from me to him. So that is a secondary transfer. And then if this one goes and sits next to that one over there, that's your tertiary, your third transfer. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because I can't hear you saying yes or no. So yeah, that is how things get transferred. Now then, many a case have been solved by finding these little pieces of evidence. There's all sorts of other stuff too. So you might have heard me talking about forensic botany, and that's where you get things like seeds and plants and stuff like that that get deposited at scenes and then get carried elsewhere. Like pollen is a fantastic one. It might be that you murder me. I'm always getting murdered today. You murder me murder me in a garden in Sheffield. You then take my body and dump it near Grimsby. Now the pollen in Sheffield will be different to the pollen in Grimsby because of the trees and the other flora and fauna in the area. And investigators will be able to tell if I have been moved. So this is really, 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 really interesting stuff. Yeah, so that's that stuff basically. So when you are looking at crime scenes, you don't touch anything, you don't move anything, and you do as you're told. There will also be someone keeping a scene log. You might find that you're asked to stand at a crime scene, so you might be stood at the cordon, not letting people in. You might find yourself there for a very, very long time and that you need a wee, and that's just how things go in policing. So yeah, that's crime scenes for basics so far, the basics of crime scenes. I'd love to hear any questions. Pop me some questions in. Let me know what you want to cover next. But yeah, I've only lifted the lid on crime scene investigation. This is just a little basic. But yeah, please let me know anything you'd like me to cover. Thanks again for tuning in, and thanks again for linking in with me. See you next time. In the meantime, stay safe, look after each other, and please don't commit any crimes.